up some of chapter 19 and then probably go into chapter 20 today. But there's a few I didn't hit last time. We're going to start in Proverbs chapter 19, verse 23. Let me just read to you 23 on down. The fear of the Lord tendeth to life, and he that hath it shall abide satisfied. He shall not be visited with evil. A slothful man hideth his hand in his bosom, and will not so much as bring it to his mouth again. Smite a scorner, and the simple will beware, and reprove one that hath understanding, and he will understand knowledge. He that wasteth his father, and chaseth away his mother, is a son that causeth shame and bringeth reproach. Cease, my son, to hear the instruction that causeth to err from the words of knowledge. An ungodly witness scorneth judgment, and the mouth of the wicked devoureth iniquity. Judgments are prepared for scorners, and stripes for the back, of fools. Let's go to the Lord in prayer. Father, just would pray for this time together in your word, Lord. I just pray that we would be edified tonight, and Father, that we would be challenged tonight. God, pray for that in Jesus' name. Amen. Proverbs 19:23, the fear of the Lord tendeth to life. Obviously, the fear of the Lord is something that's very important. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge. But fools, they're the kind of people that won't receive instruction. So obviously you can see that the fear of the Lord is going to cause you to receive instruction for one thing, and it tendeth to life. I tell you what, if you don't hear the word of God, guess what? Do you think you're ever going to be born again? No, it's not. Without hearing what God has to say, you're never going to respond to the gospel. So you have to have ears to hear. And I believe that's the biggest problem. People simply do not hear because they don't fear the Lord. I guarantee when you start fearing God, one thing we see in the book of Romans, when it talks about lost man's condition, there is no fear of God before their eyes. That speaks of our world today, that the lost world out there, they just plain and simply don't fear God. See, the fear of God causes you to start paying attention. When you start being afraid of God and you believe what he says, is what it really boils down to. When you start believing what God says, there's a fear there. Again, the fear of the Lord tendeth to life, and he that hath the fear of the Lord, shall abide satisfied. He shall not be visited with evil. The person that has the fear of the Lord and lives in the fear of the Lord, this living in the fear of the Lord is abiding in the fear of the Lord, will be satisfied. You think, well, I want to have my fun now. I don't believe you'll ever be satisfied just doing what you want to do. The fear of the Lord tendeth to life, and he that hath it shall abide satisfied. You're going to be satisfied. He shall not be visited with evil. There is a fulfillment and a satisfaction in abiding in the fear of the Lord. The Lord will preserve us from evil. So again, if we fear the Lord, he's going to preserve us from evil. He's going to, if we have the fear of the Lord and abide in the fear of the Lord, guess what? He's going to preserve us from evil. He's going to bad things aren't going to happen to us. He's going to protect us. Reading the book of Daniel, I read quite a bit in the book of Daniel because I'm going to be preaching some messages from the book of Daniel. But I tell you, that's one thing you see that, you got Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego and Daniel. They're really protected. It almost reminds me, especially with Daniel, it's almost like Joseph. Everything he did, it just turned out right. Why is that? Because he feared the Lord. That was the difference. Remember he didn't want to eat the king's meat, and so, but he purposed in his heart that he wasn't going to do those things, disobey God, because the diet over there and drinking wine and all that, he wasn't going to become involved in that stuff. And he asked the eunuch that he wouldn't have to do those things. And really what you see, the Lord kept him from evil. And it's interesting when when Darius the Mede took over, or Darius, isn't it, Lalon? We looked up the correct pronunciation. It's Darius, excuse me. Kind of hard for me to pronounce some of them words. But anyway, Darius took over, and really Darius, after Nebuchadnezzar and Belshazzar, Nebuchadnezzar had to learn the hard way. Belshazzar, he didn't care one way or the other. He was the one that, remember, the drinking out of gold and praising the gods of gold and silver, after he should have learned from his dad. And he would have heard about it, but he didn't believe it. Why is that? Because he really didn't fear God. But it's amazing when Darius took over, who, by the way, was a Mede. He came in there and really defeated the Babylonians. But it's interesting how Belshazzar, after, remember, the writing on the wall, he promoted Daniel to third in the kingdom. When Darius comes in there, he puts him number one. That's what he does. And I tell you what, he feared, I believe that he actually feared God, but he did something very stupid. Remember how Daniel was promoted to number one, and all the other people were very envious of him. They wanted that position. You know what I'm talking about, Josh, don't you? They wanted that position, so they set it up and used Darius's own natural pride, and that he was the big cheese. And unfortunately, he signed it. Then after he found out what it was going to be, wish he never would have done it. And why was that? Because he feared God. But you can see that he believed God, and he believed that Daniel was going to be preserved. He believed all those things. And when he was forced to throw him in the lion's den, because it was, remember, that unalterable law of the Medes and the Persians. Once he signed it into law, it couldn't be altered. Even he couldn't alter it. He wanted to, but he couldn't do it. But I'll tell you what, he feared God. And I'll tell you what, it backfired on those people. Those people that didn't fear the Lord, they were the ones that, when they were thrown into the lion's den, they didn't even hit the bottom before they were taken out, where an angel stopped. See, the Lord protected him from evil. Boy, I tell you what, when you see that how God miraculously worked and protected these guys, remember the fiery furnace, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, they wouldn't bow down. And again, trying to get people to bow down, and see, again, it was people that didn't like the position that they held. And guess what? We're going to get these guys in trouble. So guess what? We're going to tell on them. That kind of a thing. The fear of the Lord tendeth to life, but he that hath it shall abide satisfied. He shall not be visited with evil. The Lord is going to protect you from evil. That's what we see. The Lord will preserve us from evil. We will have the blessing of God on our life. Without the fear of the Lord, one is not given eternal life. And without the fear of the Lord in a Christian's life, there really is not really happiness or any protection from evil. That's what you see. God never blesses wickedness. Christian, let me say that again. God never blesses wickedness. He always blesses righteousness. That's what we see. So, I mean, if you think that God, you have the blessings of God on your life when you're doing the wrong thing, no, you don't. You're heading for disaster. The fear of the Lord tendeth to life. He that hath it shall abide satisfied. Wouldn't you like to be satisfied? Because I'll tell you what, running after all these empty things never satisfy. He shall not be visited with evil. Really quite a verse there, Proverbs 19, verse 23. Proverbs 19:24, a slothful man. Now, I think most of us know what a slothful man is. How would you describe that today? Lazy, yeah. Somebody that's just plain old-fashioned lazy. A slothful or a lazy man hideth his hand in his bosom. He basically got his hand in his shirt and he don't want to move it out of there. He's at a rest position all the time. And will not so much as bring it to his mouth again. The thought of this proverb is that a lazy man makes his hand unavailable for work. He won't use his hands to work. I remember the old saying, the broom never fit my hand that good. He won't use his hands to do work. With you, a hammer never fit too good, or a screwdriver or a wrench. I never did like touching one of those things. It's too much like work. That's a lazy man. His hand is unavailable for work. And because of this, he will have nothing to put in his mouth. One thing we see throughout the book of Proverbs is laziness leads to poverty. If you don't want to work, guess what? You're going to be poor. And that's really what it was back in this time, was people that were lazy. They just tended to poverty. And I mean, obviously they didn't have all the social programs we have to bail somebody out. They didn't have the, what they call the stimulus packages and all this other foolishness they throw out there today. They didn't have that. Laziness leads to poverty is what it really does. Now let's go to Proverbs 19:25. This is really an interesting verse, I think. 19:25. Smite a scorner, and the simple will beware. Now, what is a scorner? A scorner is somebody that plain and simply will not hear the word of God. A scoffer, a derider, remember that kind of a thing. That's what he is. He's a scorner, a scoffer. He just simply won't hear what God has to say. So you smite him, smite a scorner, punish a scorner, and the simple will beware. Somebody watching, if the scorner is punished, a simple person is going to beware. He's going to beware. He's going to start paying attention. Somebody that isn't too bright, doesn't pick up things real quick, he's going to understand, I don't want to be punished like this loudmouth is. I don't want to be punished like this person that won't hear what God has to say. Keep that in mind for child training. Obviously, smite a scorner, and the simple will beware. I'll tell you what, I believe that you let one of the siblings get by with something, guess what? The other ones are going to be sent. They're going to think, well, there's no punishment. But I'll tell you what, when you start divvying out punishment, the simple will beware. It's the same way in our court of law. That's the problem with our court of law. Sometimes there's not any punishment for a crime. I think about this latest judge that they're running for the Supreme Court. I'll be honest with you, 3 months for a sex offender is not enough. You understand what I'm saying? For some pedophile, 6 or 3 months. I can say, would you really want someone like that on the Supreme Court? I tell you what, I'd much sooner have someone like Clarence Thomas on the Supreme Court, wouldn't you? Somebody that believes in the Constitution. And I'll tell you what, I believe the crime punishment has to fit the crime. And that's what we see in this, really, smite a scorner, and the simple will beware. If our government doesn't really punish criminals, guess what? It's going to ruin our society. The simple, I'm not that bright, but you know something? If they got away with it, I think I can get away with it. Don't you think that's the way people think? You better believe that's the way people think. If there was punishment for the crime, you're going to think twice. Smite a scorner, and the simple will beware. Reprove one that hath understanding, and he will understand knowledge. The scorner is not going to take reproof. You're not going to tell him where he's wrong. He's not going to listen to you. But somebody that has understanding, he's going to, when somebody reproves him. Now, what does reprove mean? Show a fault. I show somebody, if I reprove Tom Soika, I'm showing Tom where he's wrong. If you reprove me, you're showing me, preacher, this is what you said here is wrong. And if what I said was wrong, I need to understand that, and I need to, like here, reprove one that hath understanding, and he will understand knowledge. And I'm going to acknowledge you're right. That's what we really see. A person that has some understanding, he's going to know more. That's what you see. A wise person is going to take that reproof. A scorner never will. But I'll tell you what, there's some people out there that are simple, that just don't know one way or another. You punish. I remember in school, when I was thinking about this, I was thinking about, some of the bad things we used to do in school. And I don't want to give you kids any ideas here, okay? But I remember, you know, I would think I would have been about in 8th grade. And I think I might have even used this illustration before. I remember we were shooting paper clips. What we do is break a paper clip in half, and don't even go there, okay? I know that's about I know they're paying attention. You know, but I remember we were shooting. I remember shooting the lights and everything else, and bing, putting holes in them. I was not a good kid. I remember the teacher was in the back. We had all the papers on the upper thing on the blackboard, and bang, that thing had hit the paper. I'll tell you what, one thing happened. Somebody got hit in the eye. And I'll tell you what, it was no longer funny. And I'll tell you what, we got chewed out and chewed out big. But you know something? We wouldn't even have had to been chewed out. You understand what I'm saying? Because I'll tell you, all of a sudden, it wasn't that playing those stupid games wasn't funny anymore. You know, as a kid, you don't stop and think the damage you can do. I'm not trying to glorify shooting paper clips by any way. It was very, very stupid. And as a kid, a lot of times kids do stupid things. We're simple. Let's be honest. And see, I'll tell you what, reprove the scorner. And by the way, I was the scorner. Now, I wasn't the one that hit in the eye, but that didn't make any difference. It could have been me. You understand what I'm saying? And when that happened, that was enough. Smite a scorner. Punish the scorner. Let the scorner know, hey, this isn't going to cut it. You don't get away with that kind of stuff. And I'll tell you what, the people that were simple, that didn't really understand too much, they didn't know up from down, and I was one of those that didn't know up from down. That was the end of my paper clip shooting career. I never shot another paper clip or bent pin or any of that other stuff. That was over with. Reprove one that hath understanding, and he will understand knowledge. Again, the scorner generally won't understand. But somebody that's simple, that sometimes as a kid, as a matter of fact, a lot of times kids really don't, you know, we don't stop and think as a kid the damage we can do with our foolishness, just plain horsing around. You know, we don't really mean to hurt anybody, but, you know, that's a dangerous thing to do. So when you start reproving a scorner that won't listen to anybody, the simple are going to beware. That's a very good verse. Let's just go look at this here. Think about this for just a moment. A scorner. Let's go to Deuteronomy chapter 21. And this is in light of children here as far as that goes. I also thought about this, you know, reproving a child. I've thought about this verse quite a few times in my life, but I think about how difficult this would have had to have been for a parent. How difficult this would have had to have been to a parent. Because a scorner is somebody that just plain and simply won't listen. A scorner in our text that we saw in Proverbs, he's not going to listen to you. He just knows it all and he's not going to listen. Verse 18, this is Proverbs chapter 21, verse 18. If a man have a stubborn and rebellious son, which will not obey the voice of his father or the voice of his mother, this would be a scorner. And that when they have chastened him, will not hearken unto them. Then shall his father and his mother lay hold on him and bring him out to the elders of his city and unto the gate of his place. And they shall say unto the elders of the city. I'm going to tell you something. This would have been a very difficult thing for a parent to do. But this is actually what the law said. By the way, I'm not trying to promote any of this right here, because this was the law. By the way, it was a theocracy. This is really what they were supposed to do. I say there's not much hope for a child that will not listen to his parents. And I would believe by looking at this, this was definitely an older child. Verse 20, and they shall say unto the elders of the city, this our son is stubborn and rebellious. He will not obey our voice. He is a glutton and a drunkard. Somebody that is rebellious and stubborn as a child, he's not going to control. If he can't control those kind of things, is he going to control himself if he doesn't? If he tells his mom and dad, "No, I'll do what I want to do," when he's a little guy, what's he going to do when he gets older? Is he going to say no to drugs? Is he going to say no to alcohol? Of course not. Of course not. And see, this is a very serious thing here. And all the men of the city shall stone him with stones that he die. Let me tell you something. The Bible is very criticized for this passage of Scripture. So shalt thou put away evil from among you. Well, I'll tell you one thing. The simple are sure going to pay attention to this one. You understand what I'm saying? Smite the scorner. Smite the scorner. Now, I'm not trying to say go out and kill your kids. I don't want anybody to say I said that. But I'm going to tell you one thing right now. This is how God looks at a rebellious child. And the damage that a scorner does. This is how God sees it. God looks at things a lot different than we. We're a bunch of bleeding hearts and feel bad about things and so on. But I'll tell you what, think of the damage that a child like this would do to those around him. That's what we see. Let me read verse 21. And all the men of the city shall stone him with stones that he die. So shalt thou put away evil from among you, and all Israel shall hear and fear. Me and Levon were talking about this, and she said it reminds me of Ananias and Sapphira. Think about that. Everybody knows how Ananias and Sapphira, they were just a couple of hypocrites that, they wanted to make it look a certain way. So they put God's name to their lie is what they really did, which is taking the name of the Lord thy God in vain. And what does the Bible teach? God killed them. That's what we see. They die. They drop dead right then and there. And then when the wife comes in later, she went along with the lie. She dropped down. Wives, do not lie for your husbands. I think you can get that idea. Some people say, well, the wife ought to always obey her husband and do everything the husband says. No, no, no. You never disobey God to obey your husband. I can tell you that right now. Don't ever let anybody tell you that. Do you understand what I'm saying? You look a little confused, Danielle. Okay. But, I don't want anybody to... The thing is, there's a teaching out there that says that the man's the boss, which I believe the man is the boss, by the way. But I'll tell you one thing right now. If the boss, I don't care who it is, whether it's the king, your husband, or whatever, tells you to do wrong, you never do wrong. You always obey God. And I guarantee you, I don't believe that God would want you to lie for your husband. Plain and simple. And if your husband's got a big problem if he wants you to lie for him. God's not in favor of lying. It's really, lying lips are an abomination to the Lord. And all Israel shall hear and fear. It really does remind me of that particular verse. Smite a scorner, and the simple are going to hear. And we see the scorner smit here, and smitten pretty hard. And why is this? Because this child here that grows up is such a rotten example, and he's going to lead so many people down that road. That's how God looks at it. What did Jesus talk about? You cause somebody else to stumble. It is better for you to have a millstone tied around your neck and drowned in the depths of the sea. That's how God looks at it. God doesn't look favorably on somebody that causes problems for other people. Being a bad example and being a rebellious and stubborn, rebellious son, or a scorner here in Proverbs, that sin needs to be punished, is what we really see. Anyway, the purpose of dealing with scorners and someone involved in wrongdoing is that others will learn. That's what other people need to learn by taking care of it. When one has done wrong and is punished, others will also get the message. In contrast, when a person of understanding is shown a fault, he will learn from it. The wise will receive correction and learn from it. Fools never will. See, a scorner is a fool. And I'll tell you what, we see that God commanded in his law some stringent, I mean, it was actually the death penalty. And they would have taken him before the elders of the city, and obviously they would have made the judgment call on it. That's what we see. It would have been like taking him before a court of law. We can't do anything with this kid. We've chastened him, and he just won't obey. And you can see he's older, drinking and glutton and just living his life for himself, is what we see. He can't control his appetites. Let's go to Proverbs chapter 19, verse 26. Proverbs 19, verse 26. He that wasteth his father and chaseth away his mother is a son that causeth shame and bringeth reproach. He that wasteth his father. The idea is how one that wastes his father's resources here. And let's take a look at Proverbs 18:19, just to something back a ways here. 18:19. Oh, it's 9. I wrote it down wrong. Anyway, it's verse 9. He that is slothful in his work is brother to a great waster. So what is a waster, or a wasteth his father? So it would have to be somebody that is, you can be a waster by just plain and simply wasting time and being lazy. Here's what we see in verse 9 again of chapter 18. He that is slothful in his work is a brother to him that is a great waster. So if you're lazy, you are a waster. And here we see he that wasteth his father. And I would believe what this talks about, it has the idea of how one wastes his father's resources, whether while at home or his inheritance, is what we see. He wastes things. I believe that the Bible teaches you shouldn't be a waster of time. You shouldn't be a waster of resources. Don't waste things. Don't waste food. Don't waste time. You need to take care of things. You're a great waster if you're very reckless in the way you take care of your property. This kind of a thing. You're a great waster. Wasteth he that wasteth his father. You actually take advantage of your father, and you basically cause him to lose money. And in reality, that's in the long run. See, everything goes to the children. So guess what? You're wasting your resources also. You're wasting your inheritance. You're spending and wasting and so on and so forth. And just being lazy. You're a lazy person is a great waster. And chaseth away his mother. Chaseth away his mother. That's kind of a different way of putting it, but it would be chaseth away his mother would be someone that alienates his mother. You see what I'm saying? He doesn't want to have anything to do with his mother. Doesn't want his mother to tell him anything. That's what you see. It's a person that won't. I would believe a mother pleads with her child. You understand? I can remember my mom pleading with me, to be quite frank with you. There's many things you're going the wrong direction in life. You're doing things you shouldn't be doing. And, a son that doesn't listen to his mom. Any good mom is going to try to plead with her child. And you don't want to do those kind of things. And that's what we see. It chases away his mother. You don't want nothing to do. Get out of here. I don't want nothing to do with you. That's what I believe. You chase away your mother. is a son that causes shame. I guarantee you, your mother is going to be ashamed of you. Your dad's going to be ashamed of you. And bring us reproach. What is reproach? People are going to talk about you. Isn't that right? And rightly so. You see that guy, man, look at the way he treats his mother. Look at the way he wastes stuff. You know, he had a maid born with a silver spoon in his mouth. They had all, he just wasted it. He just wasted it. He could have been so well off, but he just wasted it. And it's going to bring reproach. Let me just read what I have on my paper here. Once the idea is how one wastes his father's resources, whether he is at home or his inheritance, is a son that causes shame to his parents and bringeth reproach on himself. And again, I believe he brings reproach on himself, but he also brings a reproach on his parents. You know, didn't they ever require anything out of him? Unfortunately, it is a reflection on the parents. I hate to say it, but children do bad things. It is a reflection on the parents. I tell you what, it just is, isn't it really? I hate to say it, it is. Chases away his mother, alienates his mother, doesn't want his mother to tell him anything. He doesn't want his dad to tell him anything. That's what he is. He's a scorner. He doesn't want to listen. He will not listen to the pleadings of his mother. Fools will not learn from their parents. Any parent is going to correct the child. What is correction? It would be like instruction. You're correcting. This is not the way you want to go. And the child that doesn't listen, he's going to be ashamed. And he's going to bring reproach upon himself and his parents, is what we see. Fools will not learn from their parents. You know, by the way, I think we all have foolish blood in us. Which one of us ever really did completely just do what our parents told us to do? You know what I'm saying? We always think we know better. You know, obviously you don't. And like I say, with being a child, there's just a certain amount of foolishness with a child. All I got to do is look back at my own self. I did a lot of stupid things. I didn't see things through. Hopefully a parent sees things through and sees that kind of behavior and know it's not going to lead to good things. But the child just won't hear. He that wasteth his father and chaseth away his mother is a son that causeth shame and bringeth reproach. Again, I don't believe they think their parents know anything. And I believe that we all have a tendency to be that way. Our society today is parents don't know anything. Television will tell you, especially the dad, he's about a blundering fool. You watch any new modern television show, the dad's just some dumb bunny that don't know nothing. You know, that's what it looks like. Send them to school, they'll probably tell you that the parents don't tell your. The latest thing on the news was that they had that gay pride thing. Don't tell your parents. Huh? That's what you learn. They don't tell your parents what's going on here. Don't tell your parents what you're being taught. That's because your parents don't know anything. That's what's being reported today. Proverbs 19:27. Cease, my son, to hear the instruction that causeth to err. Cease, my son, to hear the instruction that causeth to err from the words of knowledge. Now, this is a very simple. We don't want to listen to people that are going to cause us to err. Stop. Cease. Cease, my son, to hear. Don't listen to them. We all were kids once. Remember what peer pressure? It used to be just peer pressure with your peers. Who remembers peer pressure? Well, they're doing it. Everybody else wants to do it, you know. But they're going to cause you to err. I guarantee you the general consensus is, well, everybody else is doing it. You better look out here. You can listen to instruction that causes you to err. Again, learning from the wrong friends, peer pressure. Again, as a kid, I look back at myself. I got involved in things I shouldn't have got involved in. I did. I mean, I'll be honest with you. I got involved in. I listened to people, did things that other people were doing, and I wasn't always the best person to hang around with either. I probably was the instigator of a lot of things. But I'll tell you what, be careful of who you hang with. Be careful of who you hang. You can listen to the instruction that causes you to err, that causes you to go the wrong direction. Stop listening to those that are influencing you in wrong doctrine. You can listen to people that are going to teach you wrong doctrine. Godly advice is to flee from bad company. Stay away from bad company. Evil communications corrupt good manners. That's 1 Corinthians 15:33, I believe. Evil communications. You hang around the wrong people, it's going to corrupt you. I don't care who you are. I don't care who you are. You start hanging, you could be a good kid, a good adult, wanting to do the right thing. You start hanging around the wrong people, I guarantee it's going to have a bad effect on you. Don't listen to worldly advice. Don't listen to worldly advice. If we want to go the wrong direction, most of the time we're going to try to find somebody that's going to give us wrong counsel. We're not going to really want to go to somebody that's going to tell us to do the right thing. By the way, the world lies in wickedness. Don't follow the lies of this world. The lies of this world. Let me just give you a few lies of this world. Evolution is a lie of this world. Evolution is a lie of this world. Humanism, socialism. Socialism. That's what's being portrayed today. This whole country is moving towards socialism. And I'll tell you what, when China moved towards socialism, when Russia moved towards socialism, you destroyed everything that was in your past. The history had to be rewritten. It had to be changed. God had to be thrown out. Let me tell you something right now. God is being thrown out of our society. Think about how ungodly this country is becoming, how ungodly our educational systems are coming. I guarantee you with the evolution, that was mild compared to what everything. I'll tell you what, you can have gay pride week, but don't mention the name of Jesus Christ in school. I'll tell you that right now. You can have all this perverted junk in there, but do not listen to the name of Jesus. You don't want to listen to somebody that says, hey, this is wrong. Godless psychology, modernistic false religion. Modernistic false religion. There's much of that's being listened to today. Government schools. I mean, it's the government schools, I guarantee you. Who's the God of this world? Who's running the governments? It's the devil, folks. What else are you going to get out of it? Proverbs 19:28. An ungodly witness scorneth judgment. Here we see that scorning again. What is scorning? I'm not going to listen to it. I don't fear God. I'm not going to listen to any judgment. An ungodly witness. What's an ungodly witness? An ungodly witness would be a liar. That's what you got. He's going to scorn judgment. And the mouth of the wicked devoureth iniquity. What is devouring iniquity? When you devour something, you eat it up. The mouth of the wicked eats up iniquity. He's going to get all the junk. The person that's wicked, he's going to want to find all this junk and repeat all this junk. He's going to devour it, and he's going to spew that out. Let me read what I wrote here. An ungodly witness has no respect for justice. He don't care what's right. That's an ungodly. He don't really care what's right. And see, unfortunately, that's a lot of our leadership in our country. They really honestly don't care what's right. It's how much money they can make. That's really what the biggest problem in our country is. Well, how much money is in for me? An ungodly witness does not care about that which is true. He's not going to care whether something's a truth or not. I'll tell you what, we've been lied to so much in this country as of late. You can't believe what's on the news, folks. I hope you understand that. I really hope you understand that you cannot believe what you're hearing on the news. You just can't. I don't believe half of what I'm hearing what's going on over in Ukraine. I don't believe it. I'm not coming up with a bunch of crazy, there's a bunch of wild, like crazy conspiracy theories, by the way. I'm not promoting that, but I don't believe what they're telling me because they haven't told me the truth about much of anything else for the last couple of years. An ungodly witness does not care about that which is true. He is corrupt. That's an ungodly witness. Do I really want to listen to somebody that's ungodly? Not really. I saw it. I heard it. You're an ungodly witness. I'm not going to put too much stock in what you said. The ungodly will testify. What he testifies to will be twisted and dishonest. Obviously, he is not a credible witness. And I'll tell you what, I believe there's a lot of times people are witnesses that are just plain liars. You know, if somebody's a witness and said, I saw something, and he's been known to lie about this and lie about that, he's not credible. You cannot have confidence in what a known liar is saying. If somebody's given to telling lies all the time, you would be very foolish to believe what they're telling you. That's all there is to it. And I'm going to tell you something right now. If somebody tells you about something about somebody else, I would not necessarily believe it. You're setting yourself up. Don't believe everything you hear, by the way, because I do believe there's a lot of ungodly witnesses out there that scorn judgment. They just scoff at it. They don't like judgment. They don't care what's right. Proverbs chapter 19, verse 28. And this will be my last one because then we'll go into chapter 20. Judgments are prepared for scorners, and stripes for the back of fools. Those who scorn justice, as we see in verse 27, are corrupt. In due season, they will be judged. I guarantee you, a scorner is going to be found out. Sooner or later, a scorner is going to be found out. A liar is going to be found out. They will be judged. Dishonest and corrupt individuals are eventually found out and punished. Be sure your sin will find you out. It may take a long time, but I believe that they're going to be found out. Judgments are prepared for scorners, and stripes for the back of fools. Fools and scorners, they're the same thing. That's what we see, because you are a fool when you're a scorner, when you won't listen to instruction, when you won't listen to God. I guarantee you, you're going to be faced with judgment. If you don't have it on this side, I'll guarantee you'll have it on the other side. You definitely will you're going to get it. Be sure your sin will find you out. Nobody gets away with things. You know, there's a lot of crooked stuff going on. But I tell you what, there's going to come a day of reckoning. That's all there is to it. There's going to come a day of reckoning. Nobody gets away with it. What should we do? We just need to be concerned about doing the right thing ourselves. Don't have the attitude, well, everybody else is doing it, so I'm going to try to get away with it. What God requires is that we're faithful. That's what I see in the Bible, that we do the right thing. See, again, do I want God's blessing on my life? I want God's blessing on my life. I just need to make sure I'm doing the right thing, that I'm faithful. I don't judge myself by what somebody else is doing. God is the standard. I just need to do the right thing no matter what everybody else is doing. Again, judgments are prepared for scorners. Because could I be a scorner and not really be obeying God? Yeah, we sure can. And we can be very foolish. certain areas of our life. Well, I don't want to go there with this one. I've had people tell me that. Well, I don't want to talk about that particular verse. I don't like that one. That's a scorner. That's a scorner. Don't go that way. Judgments are prepared for scorners, and stripes for the back of fools. There is coming a time of judgment. And if it is, like I said, if it's not on this side, it'll be on the next. Let's go to the Lord in prayer.